Bro, I want to introduce you to a really cool chick, Maria said from the threshold. She often dropped by to visit her older brother after classes. Well, maybe not often, but from time to time. They were 3 years apart, but she was just finishing college, while Jaeger had been working for 3 years already. Last year he took out a mortgage for an apartment. Their parents helped a bit with the down payment, but otherwise, he did everything himself. He was a good guy, and Maria loved him. That pretty much summed up her older brother. It was just a pity that he didn't have much luck with girls. He wasn't exactly frivolous, but he always seemed to pick the wrong ones. So, who's this chick? Her brother asked. And hello, by the way. Hey, dear, she's an amazing girl. Smart, beautiful, cooks deliciously, fun, and lively. You won't get bored with her. Jaeger knew his sister well, so he understood that she had some kind of ace up her sleeve. And what's wrong with her? Well, not everything is perfect, there's just one tiny flaw, Maria replied. Come on, spit it out. She doesn't have legs. Well, not both, just below the knees, but she runs on a prosthetic faster than me. Maria, are you serious? Who needs a one-legged wife? But you don't even know her, his sister said indignantly. Jaeger was at that age where any new relationship was already viewed with future prospects. Lately, he wasn't interested in casual flings or short-term acquaintances. He wanted to find his person in this world. It's not like he had exaggerated demands, but he did want his future wife to have a pair of limbs and preferably 2 eyes as well. Maria, I'm sure she's wonderful, but I'll pass, no offense. Well, suit yourself, she shrugged, but a hint of hurt was visible in her eyes. She didn't want to force him to date her friend, although she wished they would hit it off. She really liked this girl. A couple of months passed, and Maria was planning a birthday party. Of course, she invited her brother. They celebrated separately with their parents and then gathered with friends at a cafe. Jaeger was a bit late, only by half an hour, but everyone had already gotten acquainted with those they didn't know. The party was in full swing. Being hungry, her brother decided to grab a bite first. While devouring some incredibly delicious salad, he suddenly noticed one of his sister's friends. She was cute, smiling, clearly a charmer. He always liked girls like her. He observed her for about 15 minutes. There didn't seem to be a boyfriend nearby. Perhaps he could try his luck. Hey, what's your name? He decided to start the conversation. Hi, I'm Sophia, and I already know you, Jaeger, she replied. I'm so famous. In a way, Maria had been buzzing in everyone's ears about her amazing little brother. Although she forgot to mention that he was also handsome. Oh, flattery, here's a comeback for you. You're just gorgeous, she said playfully. And are you studying together? For a couple of months, yes, and then we'll go our separate ways. Although, I wouldn't want to lose touch, I adore Maria, he said. In that, we're similar, I adore her too. And there's no need to lose touch at all, there's plenty of room in this city. Well, yes, but they'll kick us out of the dorm, and renting an apartment is expensive. I'll have to go back home, it's easier to find work there. Things can still change, he said mysteriously. Jaeger had a silly habit, sometimes he started making plans for the future as soon as he met an interesting girl. He was already imagining Sophia as his girlfriend. Maybe even his wife in the future. Will they kick me out for the second year? She joked. Well, that's not the only option, and why aren't you dancing? I am, but I'm not very good with my moves, plus I overate, to be honest. The food here is so delicious, I'm waiting for it to settle. It's better to shake it off, Jaeger suggested, extending his hand to her, inviting her to the dance floor. Sophia didn't object, she took his hand and went to dance. She moved quite well, apparently downplaying her abilities when she talked about her moves. Seeing them together, Maria furrowed her brow for some reason. She watched them for a bit, then approached her brother and led him aside. What are you doing? She asked. What do you mean? Just having fun. Isn't that why you started this party? I'm not talking about that. Why are you hitting on Sophia? And why not? What's wrong with her? He had already forgotten about their previous conversation and certainly couldn't guess that she was the girl his sister wanted to introduce him to. I actually really like her. I don't want you to hurt her. I wasn't planning to. What's the matter, Maria? Didn't you say you didn't want a one-legged wife? Forgot? Well, she has two legs. Look, she's even dancing. You're a fool, not a human. 1. She just learned to live with it. Jaeger looked at Sophia again, trying to find at least one hint that she was missing a leg. But no, it wasn't noticeable at all from the outside. He even felt a little ashamed. And he didn't know what to do next. He really did like the girl. But now he was frozen in surprise, looking at her. Sophia had already guessed everything when she saw him whispering with his sister. She continued dancing, ignoring him, although she already guessed that he probably wouldn't talk to her anymore. But she was slightly mistaken. As soon as she sat down at the table, Jaeger was there next to her. He just sat and looked at her, not knowing what to say. Did Maria spill the beans? Sophia asked herself. He only nodded in response, but didn't say anything. Oh well, don't be upset. I'm used to it. Everyone gets scared when they find out the truth. I don't care. And how did it happen? He asked hesitantly. Sophia didn't like this question. She didn't like to remember that day. After all, it happened just 5 years ago. Back then, she was a carefree teenager. She was getting ready to finish school and enter college. But one day, on the eve of New Year's, she woke up to a terrible noise. At first, she didn't even understand what had happened. She heard a loud bang, mixed with the sound of shattering glass. She felt the walls and the bed beneath her shake, and then she felt excruciating pain, but didn't immediately realize what had happened. It was scary even to take off the eye mask. But when she did, she was even more frightened. Glass was scattered around her, some shards stuck in her body. One very large shard had torn her leg. Blood was gushing, and her parents weren't home. With trembling hands, she applied an improvised tourniquet above the wound as she had been taught in school, made some sort of splint out of a tablet case that was lying next to her pillow. She bandaged her leg and managed to get out of bed to open the front door and call for help. A neighbor helped her downstairs, and a few minutes later, the ambulance arrived. It turned out that a gas boiler in the neighboring building had exploded. The explosion was so powerful that it blew out windows in several apartments. Their apartment was one of them. Horror, pain, fear. It wasn't the best day. She spent New Year's in the hospital, and then for several weeks, they tried to save her leg, but in the end, it had to be amputated due to an infection that couldn't be cured. The tissues were gradually dying. When it came to the patient's life, the doctors had to make this difficult decision. Several years had passed. Sophia had long come to terms with what had happened. She had always been cheerful, she decided not to be down about it now. But on the personal front, luck wasn't on her side. Guys didn't really want a legless girl. She had already told some of them her pitiful story, but they still left. She didn't want to share her feelings anymore, so she came up with a new joke about it every time. I got bitten by a huge anaconda, Sophia joked. Why not a crocodile? It was a crocodile last time. Don't you want to tell me? No. Well, okay, maybe you'll tell me later. Later, she was surprised. Yeah, I think we should get to know each other better. My little sister wouldn't have been so keen on setting us up for no reason. Sophia didn't reply, she changed the subject. They sat and chatted for a long time, and after the party, Jaeger walked her home. They exchanged phone numbers. He called her the next day and asked her out on a date. They started dating, and 2 weeks later, he asked her to move in with him. When Sophia graduated, Jaeger proposed to her. They got married despite the unfavorable forecasts in the beginning. Getting to know Sophia better, Jaeger could understand why his sister was so eager to introduce them. The lack of a leg wasn't a flaw, but the lack of a soul or conscience would have been a tragedy. It was fortunate that his young wife had a good heart and conscience. And the leg? It was a minor inconvenience, but it meant he could carry his wife on his arms more often. Well, or watch her hilariously hop to the bathroom when she was too lazy to put on her prosthesis.